Thank You White Knights is supported by ExclusiveWellnessClub.com, home of wellness products for the health conscious such as MMS1 and 2, Lugol's iodine, DMSO, colloidal silver and MSM at ExclusiveWellnessClub.com. Shipping outside the United States available. Link below.
Making headlines for this solstice week of June 22nd. Surrender or not surrender? It appears the Cabal has answered this question, triggering other plans to be put into action. Whistleblowing, a call to action by a founding father of the modern whistleblowing movement. Eurobonding, a U.S. mainstream network, appears to warm up to European libertarian values in the face of the equally rising U.S. movement. And some follow-up information on hydrogen peroxide for your info and health.
With news around, upon, within, and beyond our planet, the program making disclosure official. This is Cosmic Vision News. Here is Jeffrey West.
Greetings and blessings to all. As events continue to unfold, little tidbits of information continue to leak out into the mainstream media, and more information is slowly coming out from several whistleblowers. The headline events of the week include numerous websites reporting that more bankers are being arrested in Iceland after the country dismantled a corrupt government and rewrote its constitution through public input. The country continues to clamp down on everything corrupt to restore full sovereignty while sending a very direct message to the elitist cabal that they are no longer in control of the country, nor are they welcome there at all. The Dow Jones yesterday had its second highest day of losses for the year, and perhaps news is beginning to spread about the financial situation. The BBC, via the Galactic Free Press, is reporting that the president of Paraguay is facing impeachment charges, and this follows with galactic messages that there would be continued regime changes. Out of Ireland this week comes the report that members of the opposition parties within the Irish Parliament have this week begun demanding an explanation of why Irish Finance Minister Michael Noonan was in attendance at the recent Bilderberg meeting. Rumors appear to be swirling about his presence, and the fact that Ireland recently accepted a bailout package with austerity conditions attached to it. This week, the Irish government has begun applying pressure, as is Greece, that Spain was able to secure a bailout loan without austerity-related conditions attached to it. More and more, the knots are loosening up, and they are no longer holding the sails in place aboard the USS Global Cabal. And as the winds are getting stronger, it is appearing less likely that they will make it back to port, and as Nigel Farage noted on CVN a couple of weeks back, there do not appear to be enough life jackets on board. Listeners will know of a recent vote that was posted online by Drake and Lady Dragon. The information surrounding this vote was supported and validated by another whistleblower, Cobra. Both sources, including the source of a video that Drake references, laid out a deadline for the surrender of the Cabal by June 21st. Although a lot appears to be happening, it seems at this moment that there will be no surrender, and therefore other plans are being put into motion. In a message posted in the last few days by Cobra, Cobra describes the initiation of what is being called Operation Stardust 2. Cobra emphasizes that although the Cabal has chosen not to surrender, the negotiations have not been in vain. Now that peaceful negotiation has been refused, this opens the door for more formal ET interaction in the removal of the Cabal. There is apparently a document called the Galactic Codex, and according to Section 4, Subsection 2, the Galactic Federation can enforce the Galactic Codex and take care of violations with military force if necessary. This provides the legal basis for the liberation of occupied planets with military force. Forces of the Galactic families can remove or give assistance to the local positive military in the removal of the representatives of the Dark Cabal and set hostages free. The operation, carried out by, allegedly, Pleiadian forces, involved the spraying of members of the Cabal with a dust containing nanotechnology that cannot be removed by any technology on Gaia. It works in 2 phases, the first phase being paralysis, to prevent any Cabal members from causing last-minute harm, and the second phase, if necessary, is apparently death. It is said this technology will not be activated before something called the event. I find myself going back mentally to review the storyline of the TV show called The Event to see if there may be any hints there. The positive military and civilian authorities will still need to act, but this dusting of Cabal members is meant to help with the process. More info can be found on Cobra's blog. Links will be posted with the summary. Drake also took the initiative to send a letter to the Pentagon, the White House, and other sources. This was an open letter to the people of the military as a call to action, so to speak.
There have been several tasks given to different people through military command. To date, all have either been completed as requested or are still developing. This is an open letter to those who requested these specific missions. At the onset of these missions, extraordinary efforts were expended in just their startup. Each of these required a similar expending of time and effort to complete, all on a voluntary basis. There were very few objections as to following mission parameters and instructions. Real patriots seldom complain of any hardship involved in any true patriotic effort either. We the people have done as requested, and yet there is a great and growing concern. As many as possible have been contacted, groups, militias, and freedom-loving individuals. These number in the millions here in the States, with many more millions worldwide watching closely. Our efforts are looked at as the cornerstone to be built upon for all nations. This was only for a dream of a hope for those of us most directly involved in all of this. It seems that everyone is looking to us to lead the way, just as happened in part because of our war for independence. There is and has been growing concern as to the military's not taking action that the people see as both vital and timely. I have offered the tactical complexities, both in-house and outside, as a possible reason or cause for this delay. However, there are a growing number who are beginning to believe that there never was any intent on the military's part to help the people in their efforts to restore our foundations. This is where things are at presently. The request is major, both for you and the people. In order to restore the faith in the military helping the people, an official statement of this intent needs to be made. I understand all the ramifications involved in an action of this nature. Therefore, I have decided to go farther out on the limb I am presently on and offer you to directly contact me. I was asked to offer several things in my broadcasts on Internet radio as a help in the overall plan. I have accepted the risks involved in the same light as our founders. I pledge my honor, life, and fortune in this effort. I can do no less for my country and my countrymen. We, the people, now respectfully request the same from our military. Note that this will be sent out to everyone I have been asked to contact. Thus, the quicker the reply, the better. The country looks forward to your reply. Drake.
Also of interest this week was an interview on June 17th by Pentagon whistleblower Drake and Lady Dragon. And Drake seems to have done a bit of a reversal and has begun speaking more openly about the presence of our galactic families. Those who know Drake have known that he has not talked much about the topic, preferring instead to leave it to others. His comments up to this time have centered mostly, if not completely, around the galactic presence with respect to the neutralization of equipment and weapons of war. In this interview, however, last Sunday evening, Drake and Lady Dragon had this to say.
This comes from the ETs, those who are in charge of making sure that things happen accordingly, that they happen correctly. Now, everybody knows about these mass arrests, but what they don't know is the ET has gotten to the point where they can't wait much longer. So they're helping us. And that help comes in the form of them snatching these people up, and they screen them. Oh, that's a bad one. He goes over there. That's a good one. Go ahead. Good one. Okay, they go through a crowd. They might scoop up a whole city of people. They go through the crowd. The bad ones get set aside. Okay, the bad ones are then reevaluated the second time. The good people, no problem, put them back. The bad people, and generally they try to scoop up only bad people, so don't expect to go taking any funny trips flying through the trees. The bad people are screened twice. The first screening is to separate them from the good people so they don't pollute them. If you get somebody that's nasty around a little kid, the little kid learns to be nasty. Just that simple. Under extraordinary stress situations, adults are the same way as little children in that respect. Extraordinarily evil people with some kind of nasty thing on their mind has a tendency to pollute your space, and you as well. To avoid that, these people are being removed. There's two classes of these people, those that can be rehabilitated and those who cannot. Those who can be rehabilitated, in other words, they change their base of thought from evil to good. Now, this is done up in the clouds of the heavens, someplace by these angels, ETs, whatever. The second alternative is that they pop them into the center of the sun, let them cook for a couple seconds, and they go pop, there's a little spark, and they're done. What happens is that they go back to the origin or creator to be reformulated into a new soul that is righteous, and they get to come back, or little portions of them are spread everywhere. So you got maybe 50, 60 people roll up into one, and it comes back as a new one, a new entity, a new spirit that's placed in a body when that body's born. So the emergency announcement is this. We got a choice, and the choice is real simple. We either take care of business, and I hope the military is listening, we either take care of business right now, ASAP, as soon as we can get our hands on it, or ET's going to take care of it to an extent for us. And they're not near as lenient. And they would tell us which ones they want to take and get out of there, wherever it might be, FEMA camp or prison or whatever. And I don't want this to be a problem. That's the other part. It makes me nervous to make announcements about this stuff because I normally don't talk about it. A lot of people don't want to hear it. A lot of people don't believe in it. And a lot of people just plain disagree with it. That's all well and good, except that it's happening right now. And the person who made this announcement I'm familiar with. These announcements are never made to the general public without reason. The second part of the thing is that they asked for this video to be put out to everybody and their mother-in-law. I would suggest everybody listen to it and pay attention. It don't talk about anything airy-fairy. It just gets down to the brass tacks. You want to live or die. That's basically the simple choice you have. To go along with this, a little validation, is Lady Dragon available?
Yes, Cobra is validating everything that you said, and even more information that he says. Plus, Cobra, the thing that was very, very interesting, people, about Cobra, is I personally never spoke with Cobra, and Cobra never called Drake, so we all don't know each other, but Cobra says the same thing that Drake and I says. So I have some information that are very important. First of all, the date April 12th has been decided 10 years ago, so it's nothing new. They've been working on that for a long, long time. He said that because our vote, the people in power are very scared, and they want to surrender. He said on the radio that Mr. Neil Keenan is talking with a Rothschild and a Rockefeller because they are afraid and they want to surrender. And it's supposed to be around, they want it to be very quick because, you know, they, like Drake says, they are tired of the fun and games, everybody. And the thing that's very important so people don't misunderstand the surrender part, then they many condition in their surrounding. But the first two are a must. There's no discussion or negotiation about those two conditions. Well, the first condition is for them to go on the mass media, which is what Drake always said, an event where they would see on the television who has caused the trouble. They need to know who they are, and people need to know what they have done to cause all the trouble. That's condition number one, non-negotiable. The second condition is to step down from power forever. There's no wincy bit here and there. This is these two conditions that are a must. Cobra said that everybody is a bit tired of this. That's why they have sent Pleiadian people. The Pleiadian people are backing Drake and everybody what they're doing. That's what it says. The galactic source are tired of this. The things have to move along. You stop staying there. And Cobra, it seems to be, he said, he is an incarnated Pleiadian himself, and he helps also in the surrender of the people. Also, he said, now, what's going on? If that date, April 12, was set, what is the delay? Well, the delay is because there's a lot of people working different things, first of all, and he said that there's also a very big concern about how the people that are not awake will react. This is the major, from what I can gather that he said, Cobra, he says that's the major delay because since it has never been done, they don't know because the people are brainwashed. They don't know how they will react. Of course, after they're going to be very happy, but they might not want to go along with all this because if things are not peaceful and smooth, they just might not want to participate actively in removing those cabal. This is where that is why the letter to the military is very important because Cobra said the same thing. They're waiting for the military, meaning the aliens. They're waiting for the military to move, but now they have sent people to start moving the whole thing because things have to move. The more you wait, it's just going to drag for no reason since this is going to happen. He said, Cobra, guarantee they will be removed. He said it would be much better if the people that are working and negotiation close the negotiation and surrender them right now. It would be quicker and better for everybody.
I hope that gives everybody a little insight. Now, I also understood under that from that email that the prosperity funds have been opened. Now, everybody's been looking for some kind of financial help. There it is. Number 2, Mr. Keenan has been working on opening the collateral accounts in order to rebuild our countries, to feed people, make sure that things are taken care of. These are to be used in a combinational way, primarily humanitarian. You got to have a bridge across a river. These funds will build it. And it offers jobs in the process. You need food and water in a place. They will procure it and make sure that these people have food to eat and water to drink. This is not a simplistic kind of application for the collateral funds. Prosperity funds, as I understand it, are supposed to sort of go to some individuals to an extent. Apparently there's some packages that are being sent out, as I understood now, to varying people. A particular idea, as I understand it, was something dealing with being a participant in some sort of deal. I don't know what that was, did not get into it. Sounds a little convoluted. If somebody gets a prosperity package or a box full of money and they got to show some ID and sign a piece of paper, that might not be a bad deal. I don't know. So you do that at your own risk.
To potentially give even more validation to information regarding events to take place in the very near future was a caller to that radio program, and the caller claims to have a friend, a major, who works at the Pentagon, and this caller pushed him for some information.
I have a friend that he's a major and he works in the Pentagon, and I had talked to him prior to talking to him yesterday, and last time I talked to him, he said there was nothing going on and so on and so forth. Then yesterday, I ended up giving him a call again, and I was a little bit more pressing. Well, actually, I was a lot more pressing, and then asked him, can he, answer a few of my questions, and he finally admitted saying that they're getting ready to deal with some factions. You're going to start seeing some crazy things start happening. And,
did you say when?
I said, I made a joke because, you always say 2 weeks. You always say 2 weeks. So I said, 2 weeks? And he says, no, not 2 weeks.
So he's saying in a few days or something, or sooner than 2 weeks?
My biggest thing was that it was within the 2 weeks. It wasn't going to be like 2 weeks or over or anything. He was like, he says it's not going to be 2 weeks. And then he said, yeah, there's you're going to start seeing some crazy things happening. And I went, crazy, okay. And then I again said, like I said to him, I said, so we're not crazy at all and everything. He goes, no, you're not crazy.
Many people will recognize the name Kevin Trudeau. He is an internationally renowned author and speaker on natural cures and using the power of the mind for manifestation. He is also allegedly one of the few, if not the only, individual to walk away from a secret society known as the Brotherhood. This elitist group would seek out people who resonated at specific levels as being proficient in specific tasks, and they would recruit them into their society and train them for their less than honorable purposes. Kevin left the society because he felt that they were dangerous to the people of the world. He now dedicates himself to promoting natural cures and is consistently in court taking on pharmaceutical companies, the medical profession, and more. Here, in an interview with Kay Valentine, he shares some of his information about the elitist cabal he was once a part of, and also of non-Earth life, including his visit to Area 51.
Powers behind the politicians, which are more powerful than the politicians, and the powers of the group that control the banks and control the basic monopolies: media, money, food, drugs, water, transportation. These are the major commodities that are being controlled globally. The powers that control that believe that there are two groups of people on planet Earth. There's those that have the birthright to control and be in charge and rule, and then everyone else, who is really nothing more than a slave.
Wow.
And that's how it's set up. They really believe that there is an elite class of people that by birth and by DNA vibration are designed to rule, and the other people, the rest, 99.9%, are designed to be followers and to, in effect, be slaves. And that's the pattern. Now, I don't agree with this because the DNA vibration of everyone can change and does change if a person knows how to do it and wants to evolve even further. So everybody should have the right to experience their life the way they choose to, but the controlling elite don't believe that is to the betterment of society.
I'm not really into conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it's not really a conspiracy theory. I think that's a bad way to describe it. What it is it's basic economics. And the people that are in control of various industries, they're looking at strictly from an economic standpoint. It's about what's the best thing to do. It's in the best interest of our financial interests. So it's really an economic thing. It's really not conspiracy, and it's smart economics, although I think it's to the detriment of the majority of society. I heard you earlier before the break talking about my good friend Jonathan Emord, who is fighting the FTC and the FDA and what's happening with the pawn people and so forth. This whole FDA situation, my book Natural Cures, They Don't Want You to Know About, exposed the unholy alliance between the government and the drug companies. This is one of them as well. It's not a conspiracy, it's financial. And the drug companies said, look, let's pay off the FDA so the FDA can write a law that says only a drug can be used to treat, prevent, or cure a disease. We've eliminated all the competition. And we've maximized our profits. And since that law went into effect, the profitability of drug companies has been up over 75% and continues to rise every single year. Now, you can't even tell somebody to use an orange to cure scurvy, even though it's the cure for scurvy. It's a vitamin C deficiency.
Just to quickly get back to Area 51. So you were actually there?
I was physically there. They have hangars that are in the, people think it's underground.
Yeah.
It's kind of a misnomer. They're actually more off of Area 51. The hangars are part of kind of the mountain or hill landscape, and they're in the side, highly camouflaged. And so that's where you get into the correct hangars. It's easier because if it was underground, you couldn't bring something up. You'd have to have elevators and things of this nature. So they're actually ground level, but they're in the mountains, and it's actually off Area 51. That's where the alien spacecraft is housed, one that I saw. I don't know if there's more. That's where the dead aliens used to be housed. They're no longer there. And I was there back in the 80s, and I believe that a lot of the material has now been spread out and moved to other facilities because Area 51 is now such a a hot topic of discussion. So they decided just to move it to other locations, and I believe I was told multiple locations.
So you actually do say without any hesitancy that they did have alien craft at Area 51?
Categorically, and from my sources, the Nazis during the Second World War also had an alien craft as well. Think about the Second World War. Here we had a country called Germany that had lost the First World War. They were economically defeated. They were bankrupt as a nation. They had virtually no money, huge unemployment. You had countries like Japan, Russia, France, England, very powerful countries, and the United States, although dealing with a depression, still an economic powerhouse. Who developed all the superweapons? All the rockets were developed by Germans. All of the jet engine technology was developed by Germans. Most people don't know that our B-2 stealth bomber, guess who developed it? They had one in Germany. They actually developed a stealth fighter and a stealth bomber, a wing that looks almost identical to the B-2 stealth bomber. It was developed in the 40s by the Germans. They had a round circular craft that they had developed which flew. It looked exactly like a flying saucer. This information is in the public domain, but nobody dares talk about it because it would open up a huge can of worms. How on God's green earth could the Germans be the only people on planet Earth that developed all of this advanced super technology? The answer is because of alien technology that they were reverse engineering.
Albert would like to know what you think the government is hiding at Area 51, and why are they keeping it a secret from us?
Well, the existence of life on other planets or extraterrestrials is something that every government and every religion wants to keep hidden from the public. They believe that this will cause unrest, this will cause a major discord problem in the population. They believe it'll cause massive panic, and they just do not believe that it is in the best interests of the government in power to release this information because they fear that it will cause a revolt and maybe upheaval of independent states and a push towards a potential one-world government where each individual political party and controlling group will lose their power and influence. And you consider that this WikiLeaks documents, 1 million government documents, which nobody's talking about what's in the documents, just the fact that WikiLeaks reported it. These documents show that every politician is taking bribes and payoffs and basically just stealing money out of the government coffers. You think Karzai, and he said, he had $130 million with him. He's in Switzerland. He's got boxes with $130 million in cash. What should we do about it? And the U.S. State Department said, nothing, leave him alone. Okay, so here we have a politician of a country that we put in power who basically just stole $130 million. Where did he get it from? He got it from us, the American taxpayer. So it shows that these guys are this corrupt. Now, if you're in a position where you can steal $130 million, why would you want to give up your power and give up your position and your ability to take more money?
Whistleblowers have often stated how truth is often masked within the science fiction movies. Many listeners may recall the Will Smith movie Independence Day. You may also recall Smith's recent trip to the White House and his son Jaden getting an unofficial confirmation of the existence of our galactic families from President Obama. Smith said in that interview that he knows and that he would not be doing the movies he has done without being briefed on everything from the White House. Recall the scenario of Independence Day. Evil members of our galactic families come to take over the planet, ironically on the celebration of the U.S. Independence Day. The resulting battle and victory over the Dark Cabal, dark entities, marked a cooperative effort of forces all over the planet. How fitting it would be if the final removal of all the people responsible for the enslavement of humanity and our planet were removed on or before July 4th, the U.S. Independence Day. Whistleblowing is not an exact art. Individuals are coming out with information that they believe may be accurate to the best of their knowledge in that moment of now. Anything and everything can change from one moment to the next. Each whistleblower goes through emotions and assessments of the risks involved. It seems that so many are willing to enlist and die to keep the elitist paradigm alive. So why are people not more willing to come forward and possibly risk death also, if it is his or her life contract to do so, in bringing the true freedom back to humanity, as opposed to the illusion of freedom that has been sold to humanity up to this point? The original whistleblowers are well into their golden years, and CVN was honored to be able to catch up with one who is arguably one of the founding fathers of whistleblowing. Retired U.S. Army Command Sergeant Major Bob Dean, who still has the highest clearance within NATO, cosmic clearance. He shares some of his perspectives, including why he began whistleblowing, which may serve as an inspiration for those who are still on the fence. And he has some choice words to those of you who are on the fence, trying to decide if you should share what you currently know.
Public, by and large, doesn't have a clue, and most of them are so damn busy just trying to stay alive that they couldn't care less about the greater realities of our world. And so I've kind of become, I'm a little bit of cynical, I guess. So 83 years of life on this planet and 3 wars, I've decided, to hell with it.
I could appreciate perhaps certainly that from the perspective of having gone through so many years of working within a Cabal established paradigm, that one would certainly feel quite anxious. But I was quite impressed.
The so-called Cabal, Jeffrey, has existed for years, but they're falling apart because, first of all, many of the old members are dying off. The bottom line is that the government we think we've got is not the government we've got. We do have a shadow government that's been in place for some years. It's still in power, but beyond that, there is another power that sits above the whole damn thing, Jeffrey, and that is the reality of the extraterrestrial presence. They're real, they're here, and they've been here for a hell of a long time, and they've got the ultimate say in so damn many things. Because the technology they have at their fingertips is so far beyond anything we could imagine. Some of our scientific and military people have been exposed to it. They have literally blown them away. They simply cannot even begin to deal with some of the realities. We're dealing with a multidimensional intelligence, Jeffrey, that is real. And it's here, and it's been here from the beginning of human history. And that is the thing that's pulling the strings. That is the power that really is in charge. Everybody in positions of so-called power in our government, when they've been confronted by this, it's just more than they can handle. It's just so far beyond their paradigm that they can't even begin to address it.
Now, in your last interview with Graham Douillet on Our Galactic Family, I picked up a much different tone in your presentation that was more from the heart and certainly a more positive. And you described your experiences and your connections with Our Galactic Family in a very positive way. And I'm curious to know, you mentioned a few moments ago that things are breaking down because the elder generations of the Cabal are passing on, and certainly the Cabal has planned over generations, over maybe even centuries. It's transferred from one generation to another, to another, to another, and some of the plans have taken several lifetimes to bring to fruition. Do you have any theories as to what is it that's finally bringing down the Cabal this time?
Well, I think the realization that we're addressing advanced intelligence that is so far beyond anything we could even begin to imagine. And you're right. My personal experiences, Jeffrey, over the last few years have directed me toward more of a spiritual understanding. That the spiritual component is the major issue here. We're dealing with a human society that's in transition. This society, this human species, is undergoing what I call a transcendent transformation into a new species, a new race. And the bottom line for this entire thing is spirituality. The more advanced members of the hierarchy out there are primarily spiritual in nature. there is a hierarchy out there, and the Cabal has confronted it, and it shook the hell out of them. It literally destroyed their concepts. We're dealing with a hierarchy, Jeffrey, that is so incredibly vast, and is so complex that most people today, most people on this planet just simply haven't got the expanded consciousness to deal with it. And, I find it difficult to find words to express what I want to express to you. But you're right, I have developed over the years a higher level of spiritual consciousness, and I've done some serious remote viewing in the last few years. I had a bunch of old friends in the Army over the years ago, that were trained as remote viewers. And when you begin to do some of that, Jeffrey, and you begin to extend your consciousness out and look out, and not only look out, but look back at this tiny little planet that the human race is on, you develop a spiritual awareness that changes your entire life. And yes, I feel hopeful about the future of the human species. I've been given information to indicate to me that we have a future, and it's a glorious future, and I get excited about it. But I've really stopped talking about it, Jeffrey. I'm happy to share with you what I can, but I can tell you that we have good friends in high places, and there is a program, there is an agenda, and the Cabal is not running the agenda.
Well, I think what's really important, and perhaps part of the reason I'm reaching out to you, is you have established a track record with your work and with your courage in coming out to share what you have known and what you have experienced, and you have stepped beyond the boundaries and the borders of what the military established for you. So in a way, it's a point... I guess it's a way of connecting with some of the elders, much the way in the First Nations tribe, they would always go to the elders to seek wisdom and guidance. And there are, with many of the whistleblowers that are here now, they're in the process of establishing credibility, and certainly as more and more wake up, they want to share what they themselves are beginning to know. So it's always good to have a perspective to fall back on.
I agree with you 100% there on it. I talked to a couple of old Mayan shamans here some time back when I was in Mexico City, and they said, it's not the end of the world, it's the end of an old cycle, and we're looking forward to the beginning of a new world.
Exactly.
And so help me, those Mayan shamans said that they're looking forward to the return of the nine. And I said, well, who do you mean the nine? He says, well, some of our great gods, some of our great Mayan creator gods, there were 9 of them. And they promised that they were going to return on the 21st of December, 2012. So when I was in Mexico City a year ago, I had chatted with a few of them, and they're looking forward to seeing Kukulkan and Quetzalcoatl and Viracocha, all by whatever names, probably but the same group. And they're excited about it, and I'm kind of excited myself. I mean, I've withdrawn from society, as it were, Jeffrey, because my worldview has changed so completely. My paradigm is, I guess the word would be almost amusingly, I'm alienated from this planet. I don't feel anymore like I belong here. Ever since I was a kid, I felt like I was a stranger in a strange land. Well, but I'm not deterred at all. I'm not, fearful of 21st. As a matter of fact, kind of looking forward to it. I think we're in for some exciting times, Jeffrey. I think we're going to get some really blunt, major, powerful confrontations with some of our cousins from out there. And that in itself is going to change everything.
Let me throw a hypothetical situation here at you. Nick Pope, who are you familiar with Nick Pope?
I know Nick. I know him well.
He was quoted as saying that our galactic families could be making an appearance during the Olympics, and that the governments were treating it as a negative event and were planning for the possibility of using it as a false flag event. So unfortunately, it appears that the Daily Mail has turned the issue into one of negativity. What do you think about that?
This idea about the Galactic Family occurring at the Olympics. Jeffrey, the Galactic Family has been showing themselves to us time and time and time again all over the damn planet, repeatedly, in kind of a growing kind of sense of they're upping the ante, as it were. They keep showing themselves. Now they're gigantic triangles, for God's sake, 4 and 5 miles across. They're showing themselves more and more, and they're being very cautious because they're aware, more than we are, of how sensitive this society is. But they've been showing themselves. I wouldn't be at all surprised that they might be a major expose during the Olympics. It would be an appropriate time, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's a good idea. If I were one of my cousins from out there, I think I might decide to drop down and take a look myself. Listen, Jeffrey, let me say something to you. You mentioned the fact that I seem to have demonstrated courage. Look, it wasn't courage on my part. It was primarily anger. I was so goddamned angry at being lied to and misled by so damn many people in positions of authority. And I was so pissed off at the fact that they were manipulating the masses. And the masses are so easily manipulated, damn it, because people just don't wake up and pay attention. So my fact that I've been coming forward and opening my big yap, as it were, is not so much courage, Jeffrey. It was anger that the Constitution is being ruined by a bunch of power brokers out there. Our way of life is being manipulated for the sense of profit. And, my response to that was anger. So I decided to come forward and go public with what I've seen, what I've learned, and I've continued to do it till, I damn near died last October when I came down with viral meningitis. But I was in bed 6 weeks, and finally I was able to come back from it, and here I am, ornery as ever.
Do you feel that the viral meningitis was an attempt by the Cabal to silence you?
Well, 2 of my friends from 2 different locations, 2 different times, got in touch with me and told me that they had tried to take me out. So I don't know whether that's true or not, but I've had good friends in high places, Jeffrey. I've had a face-to-face relationship with extraterrestrial intelligence since I was a child.
I think that's a very important thing that my listeners would really resonate with. Many are afraid to come forward. And I know that as people listen to my show, they're certainly looking for facts. They're looking for truth. They're looking for inspiration. And you have gone through, since the 60s, when you first started finding out about all of this, and with your security clearance, and as you described with your anger, you have come out, and yet you have managed to continue to exist, despite the dangers. And of course, there's no guarantees with anybody because we don't know the spiritual purpose of our life path. But
you've got it right.
But you certainly could serve as an inspiration for people who are sitting on the fence as to whether or not they feel ready to come forward. What would you like to say to them?
Well, I'd like to say to get off the damn fence. Come down and say what you've seen. Be honest, be open, and be candid about it. And don't be afraid. I mean, I was told by good friends in DIA some years ago that I started off being a nuisance, and then I became a threat. And they tried to take me out. There was even a rumor that was spreading among the agencies that they had a contract out on me. And then, so help me God, I got some word that I was no longer a threat. I had become an asset. So somebody within the power structure decided that my big mouth must have been accomplishing something that they wanted done. And so the word went out to leave me the hell alone. Other than this last October with viral meningitis, which a couple of them may have tried to take me out with, I'm to a point where I'm not fearful of anything anymore, Jeffrey. I'm 83. I've been through 3 wars. I've seen things that you wouldn't believe, and I've come out and I've tried to be honest and straightforward with it, and I want to tell people not to be afraid, for God's sake. As old FDR said during World War II, we have nothing to be feared but fear itself. And we've got to come off the damn fence and take a stand. That's it. And I'll tell all of the old guys, all the old whistleblowers, wondering whether to come forward or not, I'm saying, God damn it, come forward and tell what you've seen, what you've learned, and what you've concluded. Truth is there. It's important, and it's got to come out.
Several messages from our galactic families this week are bringing greater inspiration, hope, love, and support for the unfolding changes. Earlier this week, Sheldon Nidal shared this in his weekly message.
We are watching the final pieces of your puzzle being solved by those who are our Earth allies. Around your globe, a massive effort is now underway to complete the processes necessary for arresting your dark cabal and their many collaborators in government, major banking, and many multinational corporations. The preliminary orders for these mass arrests have been completed, and what remains is to issue the legal warrants for their detainment. They are to be held in special purpose-built facilities. Our liaison teams are in contact with those in charge of these activities, and they will be one of the groups that will formally declare the end of the executive administrations of most Western nations. The new caretakers have a massive task to perform in what is a very short window of action. However, these are extraordinary times. Those who have been chosen for these caretaker tasks have a ready-to-go agenda that is to be carried out swiftly and thoroughly by these new governments. Their work will prepare the way for all that is to follow. Our holographic forces are poised to intervene if necessary. We are assured that such a backup force is good to have on hand but is not truly required. The changeover nation's military, police and security forces are deemed more than adequate to carry out the task of ousting their respective regimes from power. The same proficiency will apply to the further thousands of arrests that will isolate the dark cabalists from their sources of both wealth and power. It is to be a wholesale termination of an international group that has run your world for nearly 13 millennia. With this single act, you are to become free, sovereign and prosperous. We will be supervising all of this, and then, at the appropriate moment, we will land and begin a more personal contact with you. Much will be discussed between us. This is, after all, the time just before you go to inner Earth, where you will be returned to full consciousness. Our joint mission actually begins at this divine juncture. Much needs to be accomplished together, both in this galaxy and in this region of physicality.
The following message comes from a member of our celestial family, an entity known as Sol, through John Smallman. Here is John Smallman sharing his message from Sol, a message of hope and love surrounding the changes.
The old established order that has ruled life in the illusion for so long, under different names, different disguises, and with seemingly different agendas, is crumbling and cannot be restored, repaired, or rescued. Its time is past, and that is causing some alarm. All have become so accustomed to the heartless way in which the ruling orders have consistently maintained their authority that they are fearful that as it crumbles it will destroy all the services and organizations that are presently seen as essential to life on Earth. This will not happen. The corrupt ones themselves will indeed move on, but everything that is essential for your daily existence will be maintained, repaired, or replaced as necessary and appropriate, with the absolute minimum of disturbance to all of you. Those who are destitute, in poverty, homeless, diseased, or suffering in any way will immediately have their circumstances improved in a fashion that is way beyond anything you can presently foresee, because there are advanced technologies prepared and available to clean and heal the planet and all who live on her that will be put into action as soon as the old order has crumbled. Every conceivable disruption that could occur as a result of the old order collapsing has been taken into account. Nothing is being left to chance, so that the new age will arrive and thrive instantly for the benefit of all. Your remaining task is to release all negative and unloving thought forms, attitudes, and behaviors so that you can soar into the new age on the wings of unconditional love. Love is the divine field of life, of existence, and of creativity, and outside of it there is not even nothing. Nothing is unreal, totally insubstantial and illusory. Heaven, the divine realm, is all that exists. It is infinite and contains all that exists within it, eternally, and that is where you have your eternal existence. You are just momentarily unaware of it, and as you awaken, your awareness will return, bringing you untold happiness.
The Galactic Federation, via Mike Quincy, also has some meaningful words to share this week.
Our current plan is to start the action within a matter of days and not weeks, but nevertheless, there is no question of it never going ahead. However, as you have learned, there is a line drawn from which we must get started, even if it means becoming more directly involved. All along, we have tried to encourage your participation in the preparations for ascension, and that has not changed. But we will move into action when given the authority. You will know when action is imminent, as our allies intend to give a public announcement beforehand. Our tasks are looking a lot easier now that the Dark Ones are no longer the power they were. The work of our allies has been extremely successful in breaking down their power structure, and they no longer command such large forces as previously. In fact, their capitulation has taken place in all but name, and we await their final admission of defeat. So whatever news you hear, do not fear the consequences, as we are in control, and short of minor irritations, we will not allow our efforts to be interfered with. There are still those who paint a picture of catastrophic happenings, but be assured that any physical changes will be more in the way of local changes and not worldwide. Bear in mind that we can moderate the effects of earthquakes and contain them to ensure that only the minimum of damage occurs. A long time ago, your seers saw massive changes coming and prophesied them accordingly, but with time, those possibilities became less catastrophic. So when people refer back to them, remember that they are no longer in line with the current view on physical changes. Even as this message is being relayed to you, the energies have once again been increasing as a result of the summer solstice. To some extent, you can sit back and enjoy the coming period, but be aware that once the fun starts, it will come thick and fast. The main point is that whatever takes place now is ultimately for your good, so do not see disharmony and danger where none exists. Have faith in your allies and our presence, as we have waited long for these moments and intent on keeping you well informed.
CVN will do its best to stay on top of any breaking events and find ways to communicate this information to you when and if necessary. Another rather interesting event has taken place this week concerning business, politics, European-US relations, and rising consciousness. Fox Business News recently interviewed Nigel Farage, leader of the UK Independence Party to the European Parliament, and Mr. Farage has also appeared on Judge Napolitano's program. Here, in the interview with Fox Business, listen carefully to what is said. If the Cabal still had significant control and power, would an anchor be interviewing someone like Mr. Farage and mentioning his libertarian leanings, considering the cold shoulder being given to Ron Paul? At the beginning, the anchors admit that they have been watching Mr. Farage's videos for only a week, but they are now watching them. Mainstream media is beginning to pay attention, but notice how the network softens the blow, so to speak, by referencing the situation in Europe while appearing to be planting a seed for the libertarian evolution within the U.S. Republican Party, now being led by Ron Paul.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, Nigel. We've been playing your clips for the past week or so, as have a lot of people. So what do you think of this claim that it's the fault of the United States, the problems that Europe has? We all know that under that Clinton period with Greenspan in charge of the Fed, some big mistakes were made in terms of banking, and some of those illnesses did spread to other countries, including Europe. The reason the euro is in the state it's in is they put together a completely artificial currency with countries that never fitted together. They've added on top of that a regulatory cost burden through excess regulation on the environment and employment legislation that is driving parts of Europe towards being a third world country. On top of everything else, we now have all of these billions and billions of euros, hundreds of billions of euros going into these bailouts. Where is all that money going? Well, what it's doing effectively is it kind of goes straight through the governments and straight back to the banks from the member states who've given the money in the first place. And it's very odd. I mean, in the case of Spain, the only buyers of Spanish bonds are Spanish banks. And so the European Commission and European Central Bank give money to Spanish banks to buy Spanish government debt. I mean, listen, the whole thing's a giant Ponzi scheme, isn't it? It's the same money that's circulating round and round and round, and at the end of the day, this whole thing is going bust. Well, taxpayers, It's the middle-class taxpayer that's bailing out the millionaires, correct?
Yes, it is, and that's why we're seeing the beginnings of a real democratic revolution taking place across the north of Europe. Just 18 months ago in Finland, a very conservative country in every way, a very new political party headed up by a friend of mine nearly won the general election. We're seeing in the Netherlands, with elections coming up in September, over 50% of the parties there in the polls actually want to get out of the European Union, not just the Eurozone. In this country, we've seen my party, UKIP, overtake the Lib Dems in the polls and now posing a real challenge intellectually and in terms of votes as well to the Conservative government. There is big change taking place in Europe, and that is because we have been led effectively by a group of ex-communists to a total disaster.
Well, we have a part of your Independence Party creed where you say, quote, "We believe in the minimum necessary government which defends individual freedom, supports those in real need, takes as little of our money as possible, and doesn't interfere in our lives." Basically, it sounds pretty libertarian. Is that a short description of what you are?
Completely and utterly.
CVN would like to share a bit of additional information discovered following last week's story on hydrogen peroxide. CVN has learned that it is apparently illegal to report to people publicly the benefits of natural health cures. Kevin Trudeau mentioned this earlier in his comments about how the pharmaceutical industry controls lawmakers. This, however, will not stop me because, after all, their laws can only be imposed upon persons who accept their corporate fiction identity and accept their rules as law. As I am not a person, but rather a sovereign human, Admiralty law rules cannot be lawfully applied unless I consent to them, as I am neither a person nor am I a corporate fiction identity. If the government wishes to challenge me, I invite them to do so, because I trust that the Galactic families are protecting me, protecting the truth, and as Bob Dean has said, I can no longer sit down while these groups get away with all that they have been getting away with. CVN reported last week the different grades of hydrogen peroxide and reported that there is only one that is suitable for ingestion into the body, and this is the 35% food grade. Questions began to arise as to how a 35% solution is okay, but a lower percentage may not be okay. And here is what I have learned. According to several websites, one of them being Sproutmaster.com, the 35% food grade or ultra pure grade H2O2 should not be confused with the other grades. All the other grades of H2O2 have super D peroxide and contain stabilizers like phenol, acetanilide, sodium stannate, and tetrasodium phosphate. These grades should always be avoided. The food grade is the grade that does not contain these elements. You can dilute the 35% solution in an 11-to-1 ratio, 11 ounces of distilled water to 1 ounce of 35% concentrate. This will give you a 3% solution that can be taken internally. Do not blindly trust this information. Do your own research and see the words for yourself and ask whatever questions you need to ask. I personally have been brushing my teeth with a 3% solution and baking soda for quite some time, and my teeth actually are looking quite good, on top of the eggshells that I've been chewing, which I reported on many weeks back. I have been taking 3 glasses of water a day with 4 to 5 drops of 3% solution for the last 4 to 5 days, and I'm still here doing my newscast. Hydrogen peroxide is now also becoming a preferred agent for keeping pools and hot tubs clean. More information can be found online with appropriate ratios for pools and hot tubs. Information at this website and others can provide useful suggestions for using hydrogen peroxide around the house with your plants and on your body. The purpose is to aid in creating a more aerobic environment in your body, one in which diseases, viruses, and pathogens cannot exist. The only grade that is good for the body and plants is the 35% food grade or ultra-pure grade. as long as it is not ingested in its higher concentrate form and is diluted down and used in smaller amounts. Avoid all other grades. More links with information will be provided in the summary to this show. So that is the unfolding consciousness news around the world this week. Cosmic Vision News is a part of the Inlight radio group of programs heard at this local time each week. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm Jeffrey West, reminding you that now is the time to get off the fence and choose the world you want. The changes are now upon us. Until our next moment of now, stay grounded in love and hold the vision of light and peace in your hearts and keep your eyes to the skies. Disclosure is unfolding all around you. Namaste.
Thank You White Knights is supported by ExclusiveWellnessClub.com, home of wellness products for the health conscious such as MMS1 and 2, Lugol's iodine, DMSO, colloidal silver and MSM at ExclusiveWellnessClub.com, shipping outside the United States available. Link below. This is Thank You White Knights and I hope you enjoyed this video. For updates and to go to the source of this article, please find the link below the YouTube screen while watching in YouTube. For the latest news and updates, please visit ThankYouWhiteKnights.com.